Sorry, say that one again.
So a public body,
Yep.
as it handles and utilizes documents
Yep.
and puts a decision on paper,
Mm-hmm.
is there some formal type of documentation,
Gotcha.
either electronic or in files, that they have to maintain?
So what council can do is actually pass a records management bylaw. They can pass, so that's what the town of High River has. So we have a bylaw that actually says there's a corresponding schedule that goes with it that talks about how long you have to keep various records for, right? So we are not allowed to dispose of certain records until it's actually reached or past that time, right? So that would be sort of my advice probably to mayor and council if that's of concern, is that you can formalize it through a bylaw, you can formalize, you can have a policy around it. A bylaw is great in the sense of, and the reason we chose to go with the bylaw was actually in this digital age where it's increasingly moving to electronic records versus paper, our bylaw allows for the electronic version to actually be the original record. So you don't have to keep all the paper, right? Because that can become really costly for a municipality to store all of that information for the certain lengths of time. But yes, that would be sort of the governing document. Municipal Affairs has recommendations regarding how long communities should keep information, but none of that is actually legislated on their end. It's up to each individual municipality.
Supposing someone asks for a record and the public body says, we don't have that record. What happens in that kind of situation?
So I would say you could probably ask, so if it's been disposed of, there should be a disposition procedure. I'd like to see the disposition record of where it was disposed and when. But again, that's all subject to if there's an actual formal process built around that. I haven't seen anything on the website to indicate that. So again, probably another recommendation in terms of things that could be done to improve. Sorry, Bill, were you going to ask a question?
No, I was just supplementary to Ron's point. You could also go to the commissioner and say, hey, I think the snow here, that document actually exists.
Yeah, particularly if you think it still exists. If they're telling you it's been destroyed, I would say, well, please show me your disposition record where it got destroyed. Because they should have some sort of a tracking of what documents are getting destroyed and when. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. And they do have the government does have a process that should have been followed. That's why it was probably even more controversial. No. Any other questions, concerns, comments? Too much information? Junk mail? No. 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 Business, official business, right? You're also going to get magazines and things that you do not need. That does not, because that was not created by the public body or delivered for business purposes.
So where do, as council, you have lots of back and forth talking about things or things, they're not official bylaws or anything like that. So where do you fall?
Are you talking about via email?
Yeah.
So those are probably, depending on what's in them, they may be public. Right, so all of that depends on what's being discussed in those emails. If it's something that's why I would say the bulk of your things that should be talked about in camera, I would keep them at your in-camera session. I wouldn't put them in an email. Just so you don't get into that blurry area where somebody could say, well, now you're discussing it outside of your in-camera session, so now it's public.
Your record retention should also include email.
Yep, absolutely. That is an.
Because you don't have to keep your email forever.
No.
You have to keep it for a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah. So I don't know off the top of my head, like we have an actual like multi-page, 40-page schedule, right? That talks about every different type of document that we have in the organization about, financial records to,
That doesn't fall to third-party contractors who may have worked for the town by regular, they still have emails on.
no, it absolutely, well, no, it falls to what the town has access to, right? But probably if I knew that somebody was asking for something in relation, and I obviously know, I'd probably reach out to you and say, do you have any of this stuff, Todd? Right, so, yeah, and a lot of consulting contracts should or do have, I don't know, now they do. Information in there about, so once the contract is done, that all that information comes back to the town.
Do municipalities then, do they employ a person that is their specific job to maintain and look after the records of the public body?
So I think it depends on the size of the community, right? So for instance, we're seeing a substantial increase in the number of FOIP requests we're getting. We've received in the last 2 months more than what we received last year. So we do have a person that is designated to FOIP, but she's also our records management. So she does both things. But in a smaller community, it may be somebody who has multiple, right, wears multiple hats.
I believe the public body must designate a person by name to be their FOIP.
So they have to do by bylaw. So it's not necessarily by name. It can be by position. So ours actually reads that it's the manager of legislative services. It's the head of the public body. Yeah. So then that way too, if I, let's say, move on, or then the public body doesn't have to go back and redo that bylaw, for those efficiency purposes as well, because that can become, cumbersome. Questions? All good? Thank you.